through evaluating, we went through exponent properties, all that good stuff. Okay, those of you that weren't here last class, I'll give you the mazes that everyone got as practice, okay, to do, and it's good. They worked very well. We did do a puzzle. Maybe sometime next week I'll have you guys do that as well. Just because you are seeing it in a different way, they ask you how to evaluate all throughout. So it was a good little activity. All right. So with solving, okay, a few things to remember, okay. What do we do in number 1? We have x squared equals 25. What do we do? Yeah, Mia. Okay, take the square root of both sides, and what do we include? Good, good, good. Okay, plus or minus 5. Okay, excellent. Okay, when you're taking the square root, you must include plus or minus. What happens in number 2? Yeah, Mia. Good. X equals, and again, plus or minus. We take an I out, and then what's the square root of 25? 5. Okay, so when we are taking the square root, okay, when we're taking the square root, we must include plus or minus, okay? When we get to the odd root, all right, so when we take the cube root of 125, anybody know what we get? 5. So it would be one singular answer, okay? So the cube root of 125 is 5. Then we have the cube root of negative 125. Yeah. It would be negative 5. So, one thing, when you take an odd root of a negative number, so the cube root, the fifth root of a negative number, you will get a negative answer, okay? When you take an odd root of both positive and negative, it's only one answer. Yeah. Because we're taking an odd root, the cube root. So if it was plus or minus, if I had, let's say, 5 cubed gives me 125, right? But negative 5 cubed will give me negative 125, which is not the same. Okay, so it's only that singular answer. Yeah.
And you said odd, so if it was like 4 or something, would you still plus?
Yes. So, to summarize, when to use plus or minus when solving, you are taking an even root. So, square root, fourth root, sixth root, okay? That's when you will include plus or minus, okay? So when you have an even root, you are going to have plus or minus, okay? So let's try a few examples. All right, in number 5. Yeah, Zach. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Right, in number 5, what would you have to do first? Yeah. No. First thing. You want to isolate that. So what do you have to do first? You want to get this by itself. Yep. Okay, and I'm going to tell you why. Okay. We cannot distribute to the 6 because we have 6 of these. So x plus 10 times x plus 10 6 times. Okay, so when you see that, you think of it as like your full x term and you want to get it by itself. Okay, so now what do we do to get rid of this exponent? Yeah, Finn. Yes, so we 6th root. Is 6 an even number? Yes, so we're going to have 2 solutions. Okay, what is the 6th root of 64? Yeah, Kenny. 2. So we will have x plus 10 equals 2, and x plus 10 equals negative 2. Okay, now we go about solving. So we subtract 10. Okay, check 10. All right, good. So we have two possible solutions. All right, x equals negative 8 and x equals negative 12. All right, even root, plus or minus. All right, I want you guys to try 6. All right, and you can leave them in fraction form. Okay, if you get any fractions. So for number 6, what are our two possible solutions? Stefan, go ahead. Positive or negative? Careful. Careful, careful. Yep, yep. So you have 2x plus 3 equals negative 2 on the other side. How many of you did get negative 1/2 and negative 5/2? Okay, let's go through it. So we add 1 to both sides. So we have 2x plus 3 to the 4th equals 16. We take the 4th root. So that's 2x plus 3 equals 2. And 2x plus 3 equals negative 2. Okay, so then we subtract 3. 2x equals negative 1. X equals negative 1/2. Subtract 3. 2x equals negative 5. X equals negative 5/2. Okay. Any questions about number 6? Yeah, Finn. Think of PEMDAS backwards. You have to subtract first. Okay. Now number 7, what are our two solutions? Zach? 9 and 1. Excellent. Okay. So we subtract 1 first. So we have x minus 5 to the 4th equals 256. Then we take the 4th root. We have x minus 5 equals 4. X minus 5 equals negative 4. Okay. So we have x equals 9 and x equals 1. Excellent, Zach. Okay. How many of you did get that for that? Okay, good. So remember, even roots, plus or minus, okay? So we dealt with radicals. Now we're going to look at some rational exponents, okay? So the same thing will apply. So if I have x to the 1/2 equals 8, how can I get rid of that exponent? What do you think? Yeah. Yeah. So what would you do? What would you do to both sides? You're on the right track. So let me write it for you. Oh, what would you do to get rid of that? One half is that. So what would you, to undo this to both sides? Okay, all right, Camilla? You would square it, which you were kind of getting to in terms of multiplying, right? You would square, because this is the square root, right? And this is to the 1/2. So to get rid of it, you would raise it to the reciprocal, which is 2. The same thing here. To get rid of it, we would square both sides. Okay? Great job. So since we are raising it to an exponent, here's where you don't need plus or minus. You only need plus or minus when you're rooting both sides. Okay? So here we just end up with x equals 64. Okay? Yeah, Camilla? Yeah, so here you would just square it right from always the reciprocal, okay? So in number 2, we have x to the 1/3 equals 3. What do we do to both sides? Raise it to what power? The third, good. So we have x equals 27. Number 3, what do we do to both sides? Yep. Excellent. Raise it to the 5th. So what does x equal? Yeah. -32. Good. Okay. Number 4, what do we do? Yeah. Excellent. Raise it to the 4th. What does x equal? 16. Good. Okay. Pretty basic, right? Okay. So we're going to let's look at number 4. We're going to skip around a little bit here. Let's look at number 4. What do you have to do first? Camilla? Good. You would cube both sides. So we have x minus 2 equals what? What is 5 cubed? 125. Good. And then what do we do? Yeah. Add 2. Good. Excellent. Try number 5. We'll do 6 together. Try number 5. What do we got? What do we do? What do we got? Camilla, go ahead. Okay, what did you do first? Yeah? It's okay. Awesome. Good job. How many of you guys did get -14? Perfect. All right. 6 looks a little different. Okay. What do you have to do first when you want to isolate that x? What do you have to do first? Divide by 2. Okay. So I have x to the 3/4 equals 8. Okay. Now, we have x to the 3/4. Everything we've seen has been 1 over. So now, what do I raise both sides to? Yeah. 4/3. So we raise both sides to the 4/3. Now, how would I write 8 to the 4/3 as a radical? Yeah, Finn. Okay, good. So I would do the cube root of 8 and put the 4th on the outside. Okay, the reason is, what is the cube root of 8? Yeah, 2. Okay, then 2 to the 4th. What? 16, good. Okay. Okay. All right, let's try another one like that. Let's look at number 12. Okay, what would you have to do first? Anthony, what would you do first in number 12? Okay. Okay, then what would we have to do? Divide by 4. Okay, what's 108 divided by 4? 27, excellent. Okay. Then what do we raise both sides to? If 2 over 3, good. Excellent. How would I rewrite 27 to the 2/3 as a radical? Yeah, me. Good. Okay. What is the cube root of 27? 3. Good. And then 3 squared? 9. Excellent. Okay. So one thing about rational exponents, when you're raising it, okay, if I was to, and I don't even have an example right here, but if this was, say when I raised to both sides, and this bottom number was even, what would you have to include? So say, for example, I had say if I had this, right? X to the 2/3 equals 9. What would I raise both sides to? L? 3/2. Okay. So I would raise both sides to the 3/2. Okay. Now, how would I rewrite that in radical form? Yeah. Okay. So, since my denominator was even, that's the square root. What must I include? Plus or minus. So, you have x equals plus or minus. What's the square root of 9? 3, and then 3 cubed? 27. So, one thing to keep in mind, if you are raising it to a rational exponent and your denominator is even, you must include plus or minus. Okay? Make sense? All right. Let's do some practice. Okay? With some radicals. And you always want to simplify, isolate your radicals first. So let's look at number 1. What do you have to do first? Yeah. Subtract 2. Then what do we have to do? Camilla? Excellent. Then what do we do? M. So what does x equal? 4. Good. All right. Good. All right. Let's try some practice. Okay. I want you to circle 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10. Okay. So we're going to try 2, 3, 8, 9, and 10. All right. Give those a try. You may work with somebody next to you if you would like through these. All right. So for number 2, okay, for number 2, you have to add 8 to the other side. You have 3 times the square root of x equals 15. Then what do you have to do? Divide both sides by 3. So then you have the square root of x equals 5. Now what? Tyler? Square both sides, so we end up with x equals 25 for number 2. X equals 25. For number 3, that's correct. X equals 9. Okay, for number 3. You subtract 2. Then you have the square root of 4x equals 6. You have to square both sides. 4x equals 36. X equals 9. Okay. How many of you did get 2 and 3 correct? Okay. Any questions on 2 and 3? Okay. Now let's look at 8. Okay. For number 8, you have to add 6 to both sides. Then we square it. So you have 3x minus 3 equals 36. You add 3 to the other side to get 39. Then you divide by 3. X equals 13. Okay. How many of you did get that correct for number 8? Okay. Number 9 is correct. Negative 22 is the correct answer. Okay, same thing here. You subtract 5 to get 7. Then you square both sides. 5 minus 2x equals 49. You subtract 5 to get 44. Divide by negative 2 is negative 22, which is correct. Okay. Then number 10 is correct on the board. X equals 1. Okay. You add 2 to both sides. Divide by 2. And then cube it. X equals 1. Okay. How many of you got all of those correct? Okay. 1 wrong? Okay. 2 wrong? Okay. Do we see our mistakes? Okay. All right. Any questions on those? All right. We're going to try a few more on the next page. All right. 13, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Okay? We're going to try those 5. 13, 15, 16, 17, and 18. All right, go ahead. All right, for number 13, you are correct. X equals 17. How many of you did get that? Okay. Do we need to see it out? Are we okay? All right, number 15. X equals 8 is correct. How many of you did get that correct? Good, okay. Number 16. Okay, number 16. Let's go through it. What do you have to do to both sides? Square both sides. So we have 7x minus 3 equals 25. Then what do we do? Yeah. Add 3, and then what? Divide by 7. So 28 divided by 7 is 4. Okay, so x equals 4 should have been your answer for 16. Okay, 17 is correct. X equals 64. How many of you did get that one? Okay, what do we have to do first? Yep. Good. Okay, then what? M? So x to the 1/2 equals 8. Then what? Square both sides. X equals 64. Awesome. Then number 18 is x equals 64, which is correct. How many of you did get that one correct? Okay. Any questions on any of these? Yeah, please. Correct. Yep. So fractional exponents, you're doing the reciprocal, which would be a whole number exponent. When you have a radical, okay, here you're squaring it to a whole number. Okay. So the last thing for today is to look for something called, or check for, extraneous solutions. Okay. Crazy word. That means, does the answer work or not work? Okay. So if it is extraneous, when you get two, let's say, two possible solutions, I am checking both of those in the original equation. If they both work, then you'll see two intersections on the graph. If one works, you'll see one intersection, therefore the other one is extraneous. Okay? So, looking at number 1, what do you think you have to do first? What would we have to do here? To get rid of that radical, what's your first thought? Yeah. Square both sides. But this is different, right? So we have x plus 1. Now, on the right-hand side, we don't just have x. We don't just have 1. We have x minus 1 squared. So how many do we have of them? 2, right? So we have x minus 1 times x minus 1. So what do we have to do on the right-hand side? Something like that. Yeah. Yes, you will FOIL. Okay? So remember, FOIL first, you got x squared, outer, negative x, inner, negative x, last. Okay? So I'm going to combine like terms. Does everyone see how I went from here to here? Just want to make sure. Okay. Right, so we did the first, outer, inner, last. Okay? Then we combine like terms. Now, since I have x squared on this side, I'm going to move everything over to set it equal to 0. So I'm subtracting x and I'm subtracting 1. So I have x squared equal x squared minus 3x. So what do I have to do? I need to find solutions, so what do I do? Yeah. Oh, good idea. Yeah. Factor. But I have 2 terms, so what should I look for? Yeah. Greatest common factor, which is x. So that means if I take out an x on both of these, x squared divided by x, what am I left with? Negative 3x divided by x, what am I left with? All right. Now, how would I find solutions here? What would you do? Yeah. So I have one possible solution of x equals 0. And what is my other possible solution? Yeah. 3. So these are my 2 possible solutions. And I say that because we have to check. Okay? So on the right-hand side, I left you some room for checking. So we're going to try x equals 0 first. So that means I'm going to have 0 plus 1, 0 minus 1. Okay? Now, this is where you have to remember, since we are just evaluating, we are not solving in the checking situation. Okay? The square root of 1 is just what? 1. We're taking the positive side of things. Okay? So, square root of 1 is 1. Does 1 equal negative 1? No. Therefore, 0 is extraneous. Okay? 0 is not a solution. It was a possible one at one point, but then we checked it. Okay? So now we're going to try 3. Okay? 3 plus 1 is 4. Square root of 4? 2 equals 2. So since we got the same number on either side, 3 is our solution. Okay? And I'm going to show you what it looks like in the calculator. Okay? So when we do these in the calculator, all right, if we want to confirm our answers, we're splitting this whole equation up. Okay? On the left-hand side, we are going to enter that in, just the square root of x plus 1 in y1. On the right-hand side, x minus 1, we're going to do y squared, y2. Okay? So, in your calculators, let me get mine up. And I thought it was up. Okay, so if you go into y equals, which is above the second key, okay, y equals is above the second key, all right, we're going to type in second x squared. Anthony, pay attention. Second x squared, that gives you the square root, and it's x plus 1. Okay, in y2, you're going to do x minus 1. To find the x key, it's below the mode key. Okay, is everyone okay? Okay, then hit graph. Okay, do we see this? Okay, so now if we have a solution, it's going to be this intersection. So to find it, we go to second trace, number 5, and we're going to hit enter 3 times. 1, 2, 3. X equals 3, is that our solution we found? Yeah. Okay. X equals 3 is our intersection. Okay. You could also find this if you go to second graph, and if you scroll up and down to the table of values, if you notice our first solution was 0. Do my red and blue match? Are they the same number? No. How about 3? Are they the same number? That confirms that that's a solution when they both have the same y value. Okay, does that make sense? So the calculator really should be the last resort to check. I want you to do these algebraically, but also check your answers algebraically before using the calculator. Okay, so why don't you try number 2? Okay, try number 2 algebraically. It's been everything similar from what we've been doing. Okay, just now we're checking for extraneous solutions. Go ahead. All right, for number 3, how many of you did get to this point? X squared minus 11x plus 18. Okay, how would I factor that? Good. X minus 9 and x minus 2. So what are your 2 possible solutions? Good. 9 and 2. Then when you checked it, did they both work? Did one work? Both didn't work? What do we got? Okay, so if I check it, start with 9 first. 16 to the 1/2. 16 to the 1/2 is the square root of 16, which is 4. 4 equals 4, so 9 does work. Okay, now I'm going to check 2. 2 plus 7 to the 1/2 is 2 minus 5. 9 to the 1/2. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 does not equal negative 3, so therefore 2 is extraneous. Okay, how many of you found that? Okay, I know some of you were still working through it. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to do some practice in class. Okay, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, 4, 5, and 6. If you haven't done so already, 4, 5, and 6. All right. All right, for number 4. 6 and 0. Someone get something different? Yeah.
I got 4 and 2.
4 and 2 is correct. Okay, so we are squaring both sides. So we have 2x minus 4 equals x squared minus 4x plus 4 once you do it all out. Then you subtract 2x, add 4. So we have 0 equals x squared minus 6x plus 8. And now we factor x minus 4, x minus 2. So x equals 4 and 2. And when you check it, they both will work. Okay? So that was for number 4. Okay? Number 5 is correct. X equals 2. Okay? Number 5, just simply, you square both sides and the radicals disappear. So you have 4x plus 2 equals 3x plus 4. Okay? You subtract 3x, subtract 2, you get x equals 2 as your answer. Good. All right. All right, now let's look at number 6. What do you have to do first? You want to isolate that radical. So what do you have to do first? Yep. What do you have to do? Subtract 6. X minus 6. Then we're squaring both sides. Okay? Because you want to get rid of that radical. So you have x equals x squared minus 12x plus 36. Okay? Subtract x to set it equal to 0. X squared minus 13x plus 36. How would I factor that? What multiplies to 36 and adds to negative 13? Anthony?
Negative 4.
Yep. X minus 9, x minus 4. So, x equals 9 or 4. Okay? So we have to check these to see if they work. Okay? So let's look at x equals 9. What's the square root of 9? 3. 3 plus 6. Does 9 equal 9? Yes. So 9 works. Let's look at 4. Square root of 4 is 2. Does 8 equal 4? No. Therefore, 4 is extraneous. Okay? So your correct solution for number 6 was x equals 9. Okay? How'd you guys do through this? Okay? All right, your homework is just a few problems. Those of you, I just went through Delta Math, and those of you that were in like 70 or below, I reset your problems, okay? Those of you that didn't do it, you have until next class to complete it, because I know with SATs and all that stuff. So the Delta Math is there, okay? Those of you that didn't have a great score, you are reset. If those of you that were in the 80s or 90s and want me to reset a few of those, I will, but you just got to let me know, okay? So your homework is on page 5. Number 1, 3 through 5, and 6 and 8, okay? 1, 3 through 5, 6 and 8. Okay, we have about 7 minutes remaining.